if I'm not early, I figure I'm late. Yeah, I'm late. I just misjudged the traffic, which I think is going to happen from now until eternity, given what I-25 is like. So, yes. You don't deserve squirrel, but I'm going to give you squirrel for right now.
Cold squirrel.
Oh,
I'm the pin cushion.
All right. So, we have the next 2 hours to have you give me a whole lot of feedback and direction about what we're trying to accomplish over the course of the next 6 months or so. Maybe a little less, maybe a little longer. It all depends on how you want to make it work. Because this process that I've designed it around what I think works best and some of the best practices in the industry, but we might be able to fine tune it even more to better fit what you want to accomplish and really better fit what Platteville needs and how you guys interact with your business owners and the people that live here and work here and visit here. So what I want to do tonight is I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about what we're doing, the process, if you will, what a strategic plan is, but I want to spend most of the night focused on what it is you want to accomplish with this plan, talk about the dates, and let's make sure the dates all work, because I want to talk specifically about the steering committee and who you think might be involved in that, what that looks like, and also talk about some of the questions that we want to ask of your business owners and the people that live here. Because that's the first part of the process, is sort of getting a whole bunch of feedback. And my dad always told me this, and it's true, be careful what you ask for. So when you ask people's opinions, I will tell you this, they will gladly give you their opinion. And sometimes their opinion is very, very, very helpful, and sometimes it's very, very, very constructive. I say that politely. Sometimes they're really mean.
Is there a
but
in front of that?
that's good. But I always find even as constructive as people want to get, it's still really helpful because that's feedback you might not have otherwise heard. So we'll talk a little bit about what I'm up to. And the way I prefer to work is very informally, just holler. Sometimes when I get going and my brain goes before my, or behind my mouth, as the case may be, you'll really have to just say, oh, hey, hold on a second, and be really obvious about it. So don't be shy. If I haven't heard from you throughout the, yeah, see, don't be shy. You know what, all right. Yes,
No, not my damn dog.
oh,
Mine.
see? He is. You guys clearly know what a damn it doll is, yes? You've seen one before? Perfect. Well, why don't you read it out loud for us then? Younger eyes. Not that he's taking your damn it doll.
Whenever things don't go so well and you want to hit the wall and yell, here's a little damn it doll that you can't do without. Just grasp it firmly by the legs and find a place to slam it. As you whack the stuffing out, yell, damn it, damn it, damn it.
Yep. So
And
practice.
make sure that wasn't recorded, huh?
There you go. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Yeah. So chicken. You have chicken. Go ahead and squeeze chicken. Chicken actually is a dog toy. My dog would take that apart in 30 seconds and swallow it, and I'd have to take him to the vet. But it seems to work okay for, town trustees. So don't swallow it. Okay, yeah.
Shoot the squeak.
Gotta give specific instructions. You have squirrel.
Yep.
Squirrel is really great if you have somebody in your group, I'm not saying this is the case, that says, we're talking, say, about the steering committee and names. And all of a sudden, Troy says, oh wait, I had this really great experience when I was in the Ozarks, I gotta tell you guys all about it. Has nothing to do with the topic at hand. That's what squirrel is for, is
That's
to
why I
remind
got it
you.
right.
Nobody is playing bunny, so Melissa, shove bunny over to Melissa, so she's sitting close. Bunny is for, I don't think Melissa's gonna need bunny, but bunny is for people that really, really, really wanna go down deep into the bunny trail. And we're just not at either that stage yet, or we don't have enough time. And there are people that like to get really, really detailed, and there is a time and place that we will ask for that. Probably not so much tonight, but that's what bunny is for. And then the elephant in the room is obviously the elephant in the room. I don't anticipate this, but it's not unusual for me to run across things where there is something going on that everybody knows, except me, of course, because I'm the outsider. And it's sort of, it's either uncomfortable to talk about, or you're afraid you're going to hurt someone's feelings. That's when the elephant in the room needs to come out. And I usually hear about it in the surveys. So if somebody in our group doesn't bring it up, I will grab elephant and I'll mention that I think I've got an elephant in the room, and I'll bring it up to talk about it. Because that's really important in this kind of a process, If we have something that everybody knows might be an impediment, or might be a struggle, or might even be a great opportunity, but it's difficult to talk about, this is the perfect opportunity to talk about some of that. So that's what my toys are all about. Besides that, I'm one of those kinesthetic people. I like to play with things. You'll see me playing with my pens all the time. So if you're like that too, feel free to throw, yes, underhanded, please, yeah, punch your doll. Wow, there's some, I guess some issues on that side of the room. There is not, people ask me this, there's nothing about the, it's also a dog toy, there's nothing unusual about the pizza, I just like the pizza slice. I gotta come up with, if you guys can help me come up with a reason to have a pizza slice at a meeting that's a fake pizza slice, let me know. Because I'd love to be able to.
Torture yourself if you can't have pizza.
Somebody's being cheesy.
Somebody's being cheesy, see?
Oh.
See, that's a good one, I like that one.
So we throw it at him when he does that?
Underhanded only, Mayor, underhanded only.
Where's the heckler in the crowd? Come on, man, where's the food?
Right.
All right, so the way I work is I ask a lot of questions and I write down a lot of things. But for the first few minutes tonight, unfortunately, I'll be doing a little bit more speaking than I normally do. How many of y'all have done a strategic plan before? Perfect, okay. There's nothing, complicated, there's nothing particularly technical, and there are lots of right paths to get to the end result, lots of ways to get there. So we're going to talk a little bit about the path that I've suggested for you, and the purpose behind what we're doing. And this is what I've heard from y'all, what I read in your RFP, talking to the mayor and Toyo for a while about it, and listening to you guys talk about it the other night when I was here. You want to, with this process, understand what you, in this room, want for your future, especially in terms of economic development. You want to understand what the community wants as well, and you want to see where those things overlap and where the town can help the community realize those ideas and realize those dreams, and how you can assist, or sometimes even just step back and let the community go forward with something to make it happen. We want to build on past efforts. There was some work done by Mike Tupa, CU Denver, brought the students in and did some designs and some drawings. People, chose what they liked best out of there. So we don't want to leave that behind. We want to build on that and bring it forward with us. You also want to coordinate with your current approach. I know you guys have been talking to CDOT, and there's some other conversations going on with businesses. We want to make sure that whatever we do with this plan, both in the process and as an end result, takes all that into account. So at any time, if there's something that you think to yourself, even like 3/4 of the way through the process, oh, wait, wasn't there this thing we did with a thing about a thing? It's helpful to know that, because we may be able to save some time and just refer back to a document that you might have already been using or working with. So, and then finally, the result of this is that you're going to have a document, we'll talk about that in a second, that gives you really clear alignment. So you start really broadly. Hey, what's going on? What do you guys want? What do you think? And you distill it down over a series of months with a series of meetings and a process that comes out with a pretty succinct document. I'm guessing maybe 12 to 14 pages that says, hey, this is the story. This is where Platteville is. This is where we're going. And this is what we're going to do to get there. So, there we go. I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you, because I always think it's important to somehow involve your community. I'm not a fan of creating a plan sort of in a back room. It's usually a really good plan, by the way. It's not like it's a bad plan. And then sort of presenting it as a done deal. I prefer actually doing the way we're doing it, which feels and is much more like the community tells us. They create the plan for us. And then we take that and we say, what can we really honestly actually do? Given our resources, our staffing, our time management, what can we really honestly do? And what should be the priorities in the way that we're going to do it? So definitely involving the community. The basics here, we're going to create a vision for where you want to be in terms of your economic prosperity, your economic development. And then we're going to set priorities, and then we're going to create short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. Like I said, nothing particularly fancy. What happens after that, the last piece of the work, is what I like to call the piece nobody likes, the piece nobody stands up for, the piece nobody volunteers for, and that is the who is going to do the what. And I mean super specific, as in Melissa is going to write a legislative piece that will be presented to the town board on September 15th of 2020. I mean, super specific. The reason for that specificity is because then you can hold somebody accountable, right? If Melissa actually did end up with that, not saying that will happen, but then you guys can all turn to each other and say, hey, how's it going? She can give you an update, and then you can say, great, that seems to be working really well. Or if she ran into a problem, she can say, this isn't going the way I thought it would, let's kind of take a little bit of a turn here and let me explain how this might work. And you guys can also say, oh, that sounds good, or not. By the same token, if you ended up with your name on something, or anybody else in the room does, and we give you a call, which has happened to me personally many times. I got the call that said, hey, just checking in on that project, and you know what I did? I was like, oh, blank spot. Holy crap, sickles, as my sister would say. I better get busy on that, because I completely forgot. In the course of just work and everything else happening in life, you can get fallen behind. So that's the reason for the implementation plan and the specificity in it. All right. So today is all about this group in this room, and anybody else who wants to pitch in the back row, by the way. I'm fairly egalitarian about this. Everybody's opinion counts. Everybody's opinion counts equally for quite some period of time until it comes back to you guys for adoption, right? And then, of course, your voices are super important in that process. I'm going to come back to this, but generally speaking, you indicated that you would like to adopt a plan no later than February of next year. And again, this timeline can expand or contract as you see fit. Contracting can sometimes be a little hard to make it shorter just because the work involved between these meetings can be a little difficult to turn around really rapidly. So just for purposes of putting dates on the board, not that these dates have been picked, somewhere in the next couple of weeks we'll want to kick off your steering committee. In other words, we're going to want to reach out to the people that you want on your steering committee. We're going to say, hey, this is what we're up to, this is what we're doing. We'd really like you to be on the steering committee. Can you help out? And this is your first meeting. You guys will pick the date for the first meeting, and then the steering committee can pick their dates past that point so that they're the ones who can decide when to get together best. And then what we can do is hold their first meeting. We're talking about maybe holding a longer series of meetings. In other words, it's really hard, and you'll see this tonight, in 2 hours to really dig deep into something. Especially if you want some really great conversation to happen, 4 to 6 hours is about the bare minimum. Now, when I say 4 to 6 hours, people start to twitch, right? So we've been talking about maybe a weekend, sort of a Sunday type of a thing, after church is done, a place where you can bring your kids and stick them in a corner, have something to do, and you can then focus your 4 or your 6 hours on these really in-depth kinds of conversations. We want to run this community engagement process, which for me is that survey. We're talking about the interviews. We've been doing, I think, probably already at your festival, the whiteboards, or what we call the sticky note process, a postcard survey, bilingual postcard survey. And then we want to have a community meeting to talk about what's going on with all of this feedback. Then, of course, if we need to or want to, we have a second, third, and fourth steering committee meeting, because this is really where we're talking about, okay, priorities. And then once you have your priorities, what are the big things you should be trying to accomplish? What are those projects or those goals? Now, this is what I want to say about the steering committee. If you are or aren't on the steering committee, I would still appreciate and encourage you all to attend. Even if you are town board members and you eventually get to adopt this, it's really important, I think, one-on-one to hear what people are saying in your community, and even put your own voice in. Because I don't want you to wait till the very end in February and then say, oh yeah, there's no way I could ever support that. I'd like to hear those things up front so we can figure out how to accommodate that, what the community might want, and what the town board might be able to do, and figure out a way to match those in the middle. So, and then the theory is that final community meeting and board consideration of the plan kind of dovetail in mid-February. So this is kind of the big picture dateline. And again, as always, stop me if you have any questions. Okay. These are almost always the outcomes if we're able to really dig in and do this plan well, and especially if you can carry this plan forward, support it, follow up on the implementation. You get the shared vision, meaning your community has told you what their vision is, and now they share it with you. So they have this buy-in and this commitment to the same vision that the town board has. Realistic expectations and timeframes. I cannot tell you how many times in economic development I've heard, oh, but we're gonna get a Burger King, and it's coming in November. And then everybody thinks Burger King is actually coming in November, which is not realistic at all. So that realistic time frame and expectations, can we really get a Burger King? Or is it more along the line of Harvest or Wendy's? Completely different business models. So those are the types of things that we really need to have a conversation around. The community support and understanding, improved partnerships and relationships. In a town like Platteville, and in towns across the country that are both bigger and smaller, you can never do everything by yourself. You have to have the support of the entire community and even people outside the community to help you. You're gonna have to work with CDOT, as fun as that is, right, to get some of this done for sure. You're gonna have to work with absentee landlords who might not even live in this area, or maybe it's their kids that we end up working with because the person who owns the building themselves has assigned all their business conversations to their children. So this wide range of people that we're gonna have to partner with to help make this all happen. But when you have a plan that's done like this, as messy and as confusing as it can be, that's really what happens at the end of it. Clear set of steps and a framework for implementation. Now let me tell you, I look at what we're doing for the next 6 months or so as the first step, as the first draft. You're gonna get something that's really nicely done, that you will understand, that you will support, but then it's yours to take and move forward with. And I want you to think of it as a working document that you can always improve. Somewhat like your retirement plan. You have to adapt, you have to change. As you change jobs and you make more or less money, or as you have kids or grandkids and you're spending your money differently, are you still saving for college? Are you putting money into a boat? All of those things cause you to take a look at your retirement plan and make those adjustments and talk to your retirement planner, hopefully. The same thing with your strategic plan. You should be making consistent adjustments to that. At least once a year as this group, you should get together and have a serious conversation. Hey, how does this fit into the budget? What are our priorities? Have they changed? Are they the same? And then if you have somebody like your business committee or your steering committee, can take hold of this plan and maybe every 3 months get together and say, hey, what's the update? How is this going? How is Melissa doing on what she volunteered to do? How can we help her do that? And then you can have this consistent review. If you let it die, it's dead. It's so hard to come back from that. But if you keep it alive by talking about it, having regular meetings. All right. So, you'll get 3 things at the end of this process. You will get a written strategic plan. That's, say, the 12, 16, 20-page document. You're going to get a marketing brochure that's similar to, but has different information in it. The marketing brochure is more of a why would I choose Platteville to do business with. And that'll be some of your demographics. We'll work with Upstate to get that work done. It'll also be some of this information we gather with our community survey. You know, what are some of the what great things about Platteville? Why are some of the reasons that people live here, move here, stay here, do business here? And it's more of a marketing piece for you. And then you get that implementation matrix. You might have already figured something out, and that is your staff are going to be critically important. We'll, at some point, really want to make sure that your key staff members are involved in these conversations, so they understand too. Very often town boards will say, oh gosh, we'd really like to do X, Y, and Z, and everybody in this room is perfectly clear, and then the guy who missed the meeting from Public Works is like, well, who's Public Works Director's name? David. David's like, what did you guys mean by that? Because he wasn't in the room. So at some point it's going to be really helpful to bring the staff in, especially when we get to this implementation strategy, because this shouldn't cause frustration. I mean, we might be frustrated along the way because we're talking about really big picture issues and how to get there, but at the end, there shouldn't be any frustration. You should have a good plan that your staff understands. Because basically at the end, it's all about you. So I work by consensus. I will not ask you to vote on something, and I will not ask your steering committee to vote on something unless it's really clear I can't get you to consensus. So just up front, consensus means that you can live with it, and that's one thing, but that you can also support it. So when you go out and you're getting gas and somebody walks up to you and says, hey, I heard that you decided you wanted a cotton candy factory as part of your economic development plan, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Can't believe you do that. Because we reached consensus on a cotton candy factory, you would say, it could be this range, right? You could say, actually, we talked about it, I fully support it, I think it's the greatest idea, and let me tell you why. Or you could also say, you know, I see your point, I had some of those same concerns, but we as a group agreed to do it, and I support it. So your range of support is up to you, but when I ask for consensus, that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking you to have that conversation at the gas station that says, absolutely, I'm in. We can try it, we can see how it works, we can always come back and redo it, or I am so in, I think this is the best thing ever. Questions on consensus? So if we have to vote, we can vote. I have lots of different ways to get to consensus, which are sometimes a little frustrating. We'll do ground rules at these meetings. We don't need them here. They're your normal ground rules. If you throw things, throw them underhanded and gently is one of the ground rules. I actually had somebody set a ground rule once that bare feet were required at the meeting, and everybody went along with the ground rule. Everybody has different ground rules, so something to think about there. What I want to do is take a second. You guys heard about me. That's my dog Baxter on the left there. 155 pounds.
Wow.
Yes. We just got him a few months ago. His owner was one of my husband's best friends and unexpectedly passed away. Baxter was his baby. Baxter is 9 years old. So not want or need a 155 pound stinky, very, very expensive 9-year-old Newfoundland. But there he is. And he actually does fit in the RV, which is my husband, who is retired from law enforcement, recently bought that 2 years ago, and that's what he likes to do. So Baxter has a ramp that he gets into the RV with. Yeah. You can see chicken. There's your chicken right there in the middle.
Oh,
Start of the
yeah.
show. Yeah. So what I want to do now is just stop and see if there are any questions so far, and then I want to ask you guys a few questions so I learn a little bit more about everybody in the room. So first, any questions that brought up for you? Super quick tonight. So I'm going to start with Mary, and I'm going to move to Mary's right. And what I'm going to ask Mary to do is sort of introduce herself to me, because I don't really know any of you. So obviously your name, although you all have name tags, it's still helpful for my visual recognition. And a little bit about what brought you to Platteville, and maybe how long you've been in the area.
Okay, my name's Mary
Hi,
Lee.
Mary.
I don't live in Platteville,
Uh-huh,
but I work here.
uh-huh.
I'm the town clerk, and I've been here 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was deputy town clerk in Windsor,
Ah, Windsor,
where
yes.
they did a lot of this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like it here. This is about the same size as Windsor when I moved there. So it's kind of like stepping back a little bit, and it's just a nice little town.
It means you have to do a little commuting.
Yeah, more than a little,
Yeah.
more than I like, but
Traffic anymore.
I know all the back roads.
Know all the back roads. We'll get you to move here. This is our economic development plan, getting married to move.
It's too expensive here. It's too expensive everywhere. It's Colorado.
Yeah, it's northern Colorado now.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're right with you, Melissa.
Yes, I'm Melissa Kendrick, and I am the town planner. I am on contract. So I've been here a little longer than Mary, so I've been here 5 years, so have I. And what brought me here was Troy, who I like working for. He's a good town manager, so it's been good. It's been good to work with all of you, and I'm excited about this. This is going to be a really important step forward, so, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Larry Clark. I guess I'm the mayor pro tem. Been on the board for 2.5 years, I guess. Be 3 of spring. I moved here about 9 years ago, shortly after I retired. And moved out of what I call the jungle, which is the greater metropolitan area of Denver, for obvious reasons. 2,600 people is just fine with me.
Thank you. What did you do before you retired?
I was a cabinet maker and a carpenter, 40 some odd years. I'm trying to get people convinced that I don't do it anymore, but mixed results.
I'm overcharging.
There
you go.
You know, you guys know. I'm Adrienne Sandoval, I'm the mayor, and my family's been a part of this community for 6 generations, and I grew up between Meade and Platteville. Lots of family, know lots of people in town. We moved here probably officially 10 years ago, my husband and I. I keep books for several companies, and I manage an auto repair shop, and we own a landscape company, and I play with glitter.
I like that as a
Keep me
job
safe.
description. That's
Yeah.
a tagline. I play with glitter. Thank you. Oh, indeed.
My name's Troy, and moved here about 5 years ago, and just retired from the Army after 34 and a half years 3 days ago. So now it's just enjoy my freedom and try to figure out what I want to do with my next opportunities that are out there. And just looking forward to help grow this community and with what their vision is. And I know a lot of people that in the community are Main Street. It's all about, we want some type of Main Street. So that's a big motivation for me to be part of this and just have an impact with the community. So.
My name is Spencer Bradman. Moved to Platteville a little less than 3 years ago. So kind of a freshman in the group here, but I have 2 young daughters, 8 and 5, and I am a mechanic service technician by trade. I just kind of saw there was an opening on the board that was going to come up, and I had an interest and saw some areas that I thought the town could improve. So I threw my name in the ring, and I'm happy to be here and help out as much as I can.
My name's Nick Ralston, been here 6 years. Grew up in a small town, Bennett. Actually played football against Platteville or Valley. Worked with the railroad, been with the BNSF for 20 years. And a Colorado native, brought me to town, just the small town feel, lower taxes and no HOAs. It's a big thing. And getting away from the city. I mean, I like seeing it in my rearview mirror. So, and became part of the board. Government interests me in a bit. It's a little dry. It's hard to keep focus on it, but I still think I have ideas I can bring to the board, and excited about this plan. Town shine.
I got square brush and bucket or something.
I'll get to it. You can start your
No,
minute.
you said you wanted to make it.
Carol,
Yes.
focus for me.
Where's the squirrel?
Where's the squirrel?
Oh, Harold Leggett, I worked in the water industry, potable water, for like 42 years. I retired my second time in January.
How long have you been here?
Oh, you can ask difficult questions.
Round up.
10 to 15 years, somewhere.
Did you take your shoes off so you can count?
No.
No, you don't.
No. 10, 15, how long have you been on the board?
A year.
Okay.
On a 4-year term. I know the water industry real well, and I know how water is in northern Colorado.
That's a valuable piece of
And I
information.
figured I could help out some other people, so.
I came to Colorado from California, and I thought their water law was confusing. They've got nothing on Colorado. Please.
Thank you, sir. Troy Rankin, town manager, been here 15 years. Transplant from Kansas. Right out of college, 28 years citizen in government. About 18 in law enforcement, almost 20, and then the last 10 as town manager. And just kind of stumbled into it based upon the circumstance and filled in interim, and the board at the time kind of liked what I did 3 months, and they said keep going until we don't like you anymore. And it's 10 years ago, so.
We still like you.
From a really small town, about 1,000 people, north central Kansas, growing up. Lived about 3.5 blocks from here. I always lived where I worked, that's just how I was raised. Eye opener when I moved here, because everybody commutes. When my first meeting was police chief, asked all the officers where they live. I thought they named streets here. They named cities an hour away. And that was a shocker to me. I like small towns. I mean, I kind of like Larry and Nick and everybody else. I like streets not to be paved with gold. I like to pave though. I can say, I think my kids can watch for the most part any street in the alley of this county anytime, day or night, and get home all right. Can't say that everywhere.
That's true.
Yep.
So, I'm a small town guy, but I'm a Colorado native. I just kept moving this way.
Pushed by the population. Alright, I really appreciate you guys doing that for me. One of the reasons I like to do that is it tells me a lot about Platteville, hearing you say, you know, why you moved here, how long you've been here. And I've always found that the town boards are sort of this microcosm of the people that actually populate the 2,600 or so people that populate Platteville. And that'll be some interesting things to talk about. So what I want to do now is grab my pen and have you guys brainstorm with me. And you all done brainstorming, so you know what it's like. You just shout out the answer. I write it down as quickly as I possibly can. If I need you to slow down, I will ask you, or I'll ask if I don't understand something, I'll ask for clarification. If y'all don't understand what somebody said, please go ahead and say, hey, wait, can you tell me what that means? Because that's really helpful. Because my back will be to you most of this time because I'm busily writing, I do have a few rules. Don't hold your hand up. Don't throw that at me. And spelling does not count. I am gonna misspell something and spell check. Perfect for that. And finally, these are those scented markers that you let your kids play with. So if you see me smelling the marker, it's not because, you know, whatever markers used to do for you. It's because this one smells like mint, this one's blueberry, this one's licorice, and this one's grape. So I usually end up with marker all over my face. But here's the question that I want to know. I mentioned earlier outcomes, and the most common outcomes that I see happening out of these plans. You know, better relationships, a shared vision, support, and buy-in. But you probably have some outcomes that you want to see from this process as well. So the question applies to the entire thing, the process, the steering committee, the surveys, the conversations with your business owners, all the way down to the actual written document. Everything is fair game, even the people in the back room are fair game, because the question is, what are some of the outcomes you want to see as part of this process and this plan? Or maybe phrased a different way, what do you want to see happen as a result of doing all of this work we're about to do and spending the money we're about to spend? What do you guys want to get out of it? And having said that, I'm going to turn around, ask the question one more time, and then it is fair game. Oops, I already told you I misspelled something. It is fair game for you to just shout it out. What do you, as a group, back row included, want to see happen as a result of this plan? What do you want to get out of it? What do you want to accomplish? What's your end result? Unity. Unity of?
People coming together to create community.
Thank you. Go ahead, somebody else?
More diverse economic base.
More diverse economic base. I heard something about business over there?
Downtown business.
Oh, like more?
Yes.
Or some? Or
Revitalization.
revitalization? Tell me what that means to you when you say that word.
Here's the
the facade of the businesses.
So for you, revitalization might be maybe not limited to, but specific a little bit to appearances.
Right.
And that would be facade, you mentioned sidewalks. Okay. What else?
Increased retail revenue.
Sales tax? So one of the things you're gonna see me do here is I'm gonna write it down exactly as you said it. If I change a word, that is a bad thing, because this isn't my plan. So I'm gonna try to write it exactly as you said it. If at any point, you have a pen, I did something wrong, please come up and rewrite it or make sure and tell me. I will even write down swear words, I've done it numerous times. So feel free. Anybody else? What do you wanna see as outcomes of this plan?
Growth
Growth, in what way? In population?
in multiple ways, yes, the amount of businesses and population and tourists, people coming to Platteville from outside of Platteville.
Okay. What else do you guys think?
Better quality of life.
Aha, how would you know you had a better quality of life?
More amenities for all ages.
And when you say amenities,
Everything from parks to senior living housing to grocery stores, the pharmacy, to
Affordable housing.
affordable housing. We have a big college up north, and every year I get a call from a college kid from the Midwest that doesn't live in Greeley. Is there any place I can rent there? So I go to college at UNC. Almost every year. And the seniors hear many conversations.
Yeah.
They knows that
Huge priority.
they would love to afford a small place and no outside maintenance.
yeah, we call those patio homes or, okay, great. What else can you think of that you'd like to see as outcomes?
An understanding of like what retail we should be pursuing.
That's an interesting one.
Sure, we've been hearing about a grocery store since I've been here.
Mm-hmm.
Little one's popping up and dying. Yeah.
And, we all know anything is possible with money, right? If you have somebody who comes in with a grocery store and they say, we can only come here if you do X, Y, and Z. Those are always interesting questions for communities.
Maybe an actual action plan moving forward.
And when you say actual, do you have something in mind that might look like? And if you do, send it my way, by the way. Or is that more of a?
We kind of have a vision of what our downtown would look like, but to have a plan of like,
Where do we start?
where we started and moving forward.
We need to put this one.
Questions?
What about relationships building, as far as the businesses in the town go, reciprocating?
For them, it's dollars per
Public event center, like we're based on primarily agricultural, maybe like a rodeo or something, hold concerts.
I have a lot of people say that.
I mean, that would generate revenue outside.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't have to have rodeos, I mean, just something that would, farmer's market.
Build a small stage in the park where you can do weekend entertainment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
live bands in the park.
Yep.
Right at the event center, or the rodeo.
What else can you think of you'd like to have in terms of outcomes? And back row is fair game, remember? If you don't have it, don't worry. Don't raise your hand, just yell at me.
I'd like to see more things for kids.
Like activities or?
Somewhere for kids to go, maybe,
All ages.
yeah.
We always talk about a rec center.
Or, just somewhere,
And when
some
you say
things
kids, what
things for kids to do.
age group would you say? Just for her at this point, what age group would you say?
Middle school, high school, I mean, it just seems like that's the age.
Think
If
back
they're
to
bored and they have nowhere to go or nothing to do, they,
Or
Swing set and jungle gym are no longer fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less play than that.
Yeah.
No, that's fun, it's just not cool to be fun.
Yeah.
It could be seen by
Anything else you can think of? Because I have a few more minutes to spend on this topic. If you're all funked out, that's fine with me too. What else would you like to see in terms of outcomes of this process, of this plan?
long-term community involvement. And not a fly-by-night, then a month, everybody goes home and forgets about it.
By the way, as an aside, one of the things that I've seen make these plans super successful is if you have a champion. Because everybody gets wrapped up in the day-to-day details. So totally making this up, Larry, you're my champion. You're the guy out there who's out talking the plan. You're going to meet with the business owners. You're saying, how's it going, Cheryl, with the things you were supposed to be doing? And when's our meeting in 3 months, Mary? Have we scheduled it? Have we sent out the invitations? There's a driving force, or 2 or 3 driving forces behind the plan to keep it alive. That's the way I've seen them be most successful. The ones I've seen fail, even the ones that I thought were done extremely well, is when somebody says they'll be a champion, but they didn't really have the opportunity to be that champion. Either they had something else happen in their life, or it just fell by the wayside. There's my speech. All right, what else? Anything? You don't have to have something else, but just in case.
I think to go along with what I just said is the development of a business association or chamber of commerce to do that driving force. Because this ultimately comes down to better business in our community for all the people to have.
RV campground near the river, for access to the river for getting.
I'm working on it.
I just want to get it on paper.
He actually emailed me today, I'll tell you the next board meeting.
All right.
Just in case you forgot.
Well, there was something funny about what you said about writing it down on paper. And that's one of the reasons we put this stuff on paper. All those studies that show it is actually true. If you think it, that's one thing. If you write it down, that's something entirely different. You're 90% more likely to achieve something that you've written down and then something that you revisit regularly. So one of the things you'll get out of this plan is what I call a one-pager. It's going to be that 20 pages all summed up in one nice, neat page that you can put on your website, you can hand out, you can put on your cubby at work, you can do whatever you want to with it, but that's the intent behind it, is that you've seen it, you've written it down, and now you look at it every day. Awesome. So at the speed of light, and don't worry, because I will send Mary this PowerPoint tomorrow, in case we need to make any changes. But at the speed of light, I'm going to go through what I think of as a strategic plan. I look at it as a roadmap. This is a journey. And apropos of what I said earlier, this journey, unfortunately, should never end. And also, fortunately, it should never end. What you're going to end up with in February is not the end of the journey. If it is, then I have failed magnificently in burning, burning flames down Niagara Falls. Because I want you to take this and keep traveling on the path. At the bottom is where we are right now. And that's the very first question we're going to try to figure out. Where do we stand right now in Platteville? Everything from what are our demographics to, what do people see in terms of what's working really well today in Platteville? What do people see that might not be working so well? Then the second question is, where do we want to be at the end of this? You said some of that, right? You said, the RV park, thriving retail economy, things for kids to do, visitors to do, housing opportunities. That's sort of the where we want to be. Now the real question is, between point A and point Z, exactly how am I going to get there? And some of this is going to be really higher level, and those of you who are more big picture are going to be happy, 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 happy. We need housing. I'm happy. I'm that kind of person. We need housing. Great, I'm happy. Off I go. You, on the other hand, are like, Cheryl, what kind of housing? Where are we going to put the housing? Is that appropriately zoned? That comes to Alyssa, right? Exactly how are we going to build? Who's the developer? How do we attract that? How does the city provide water? The detail people, you might not be quite so happy until we get closer to the end of the process. Because as I mentioned, it's this big, wide net we cast first, what's working well, what's not working so well, where do you wanna be 20 or 30 years from now? Okay, so generally speaking, what do we need to focus on to get there? And then we get to that stage where we get into the details. But make no mistake, the details are super important. And one of the reasons it kind of comes back to the people in this room and your staff for the detail part is because you're the ones who know what your budget is. You know what kind of staff you have, what kind of resources you have. And then we need to make sure our steering committee is well aware of those opportunities, resources, and constraints too, because otherwise they might not understand why we can or can't do something specific. For example, no one out in the public understands CDOT signage along CDOT roads. CDOT themselves don't understand CDOT signage along CDOT roads. But somebody thinks, and it should be, right? It should be super easy to put a wayfinding sign that's really colorful, that has these great iconic graphics on it for Platteville to attract your visitors. Good luck with that. That might take you 10 or 15 or 20 years to convince CDOT that that's a good thing to do. I'm exaggerating. But that kind of conversation with your public does go a long way to letting them understand why that awesome idea about a wayfinding sign that we really should be able to do might not be as easy as they thought it was.
But you're not too far off base with CDOT.
I did signage in Evans and okay. So, along this pathway are those things that we talked about, the vision, the mission, goals, projects, strategies. Some of those we'll work in great detail on, some are going to be a little bit bigger picture. And depending on how we choose to spend our time, we may have to come back, you may have to come back and say, let's put some more meat on those bones around strategies. I know we said building relationships was a good strategy, but what did we really mean when we said that? And this is how I also look at it. The strategic plan for me is a little bit more big picture in terms of where are we going to go and how are we going to get there. These other types of plans can really, really, really flesh out some significant detail. Your comprehensive plans, any master plans that you have, any other specific plans like that downtown plan that the students helped you do. And then finally, especially for this group here, your budget. When I read the Town of Platteville's budget, I instantly know what's important to you, because that's what you spent your money on. Now, we all know we have limited money, and we also have things we're required to do, right? But still, I can tell a lot about somebody's priorities when I look at their budget. So we have to make sure that we can incorporate and link our strategic plan to all the rest of these documents. So obviously Melissa's going to be a huge help when it comes to the comprehensive plan part. Anything else, again, that you think to yourself, oh, we should tie this in because we did this work, that's good stuff. So make sure and let me know. Those are those three questions. Simplify. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how are we going to get there? And now I am going to talk about your process. This is the process that I recommended for you. And this is the process I've used before, and it's been fairly successful. And I say fairly because sometimes the community is really, really responsive in a survey, and sometimes they're not. They've been out-surveyed. It just doesn't work. So we're doing a couple of different things in here, and you let me know if you think this works. I always try to personally interview, one-on-one, on the phone if I have to, some 15 to 20 people in your community. I'm going to ask you for those names, so kind of put your little thinking hat on here, because I want these people to be people that are the people who are most outspoken against every single thing that you ever do. That's the worst idea I've ever heard. You guys are a bunch of idiots, and off they stalk, right? I want those people because I really do, I want to hear their opinion. And they may not really have had the chance to offer a well thought out opinion, and I want to give them that forum to do so. I also want to hear from some of your major relationships, your partners, whoever that may be. In some cases it's the county or a neighboring city, some cases it's the Boy Scouts, it's a church in town, it's a particular organization. It can be all sorts of those types of partnerships. And I also want to hear from the people who absolutely love you and adore you and think you couldn't be doing anything better. Because we have that range in every town I've worked with. And the reason those interviews are important is because they're confidential. I do not tell you what that person said. Instead, what I'm looking for is commonalities amongst these 20 people. I ask them those same questions, sort of a standard group of questions. What do you think is going really well today in Platteville? And they'll tell me. And then I say, what do you think is not going as well? And boy, will they tell me. Okay, based on that, what is it you think we should really as a town focus on to make things better economically? And they'll come up with some things. That's a different way of asking, what do you think we should have as priorities? What are the most important things? And then I'll usually say, is there anything else that you'd like to tell me? Those interviews usually take about an hour, as long as 2.5 months, and sometimes as short as about 45 minutes. So I'm just looking for themes to come back and share with you. I won't tell you who said what. And I will often change the language just slightly so that you don't know who it is. Because in a town this size, if somebody's been telling you, your blue shirt is the worst ever, and I write down, gosh, everybody said Larry's blue shirt was the worst ever, he's gonna know who said that, right? So I might change it.
I'll hunt you down too.
And that is done at the same time as what I would call a survey. Now, we can do this survey in different ways, and I would recommend that we do, because not everybody will take an online survey. There are a lot of people in your town who will take an online survey. It's quick, it's easy, it takes about 10 minutes. We're asking the same questions. There are people who would no sooner take an online survey than they would come and sit through this meeting tonight. Thank you, by the way, for coming. So we will have a postcard survey as well. It'll be bilingual in Spanish as well as in English. We are going to do the whiteboards, and we are going to also, and the whiteboards, by the way, are those questions. If you didn't see them at your festival, it's literally a whiteboard propped up on some little easel stands, and there's a question written in erasable pen on the top. What do you think's working really well right now? And people are free to come up and write whatever, and I do mean whatever. Someone wrote down chicken fingers in response to that question once. And what I do with that data is I write it down just like that, and I keep it as part of all the survey data. So chicken fingers ended up as one of the responses. Clearly it wasn't a common response. We didn't do anything about chicken fingers, but still a response. We also do sticky notes, because sticky notes are fun for kids. Kids probably aren't that interested in taking a survey, and I do mean kids, anywhere from about 10 to about 17 or so. Surveys don't interest them. Postcard surveys don't interest them. Give them a sticky note with a question on it, and they typically will write on that sticky note and splat it back at you. So we have a long time frame to do this. We can extend this time frame out. I was thinking that we'd probably go through early November, and the reason for that is once you hit Thanksgiving, things start to fall off, and they dramatically fall off in December, and then we can pick back up again in January if we need to. But usually that time frame for family and fun and at the end of the year is really difficult for people to participate. So I'd like to get all of this work done before mid-November or so. Then of course there are these community meetings. These are open to everybody and anybody. And what we usually talk about in these community meetings are big picture stuff. What do the surveys say? What do you guys think about that? Did you take the survey? If not, here's a postcard, here's a sticky note, here's a whiteboard. Feel free to fill it out right now. And then we usually also talk about this question of what you guys started to get to, but I have two favorite questions here, and that is, 20 years from now, you're here in Platteville still, and your cousin is going to come visit, and you haven't seen your cousin in 20 years. They have not been to Platteville. And you're super excited, they're going to spend 2 weeks with you, they're going to stay at your house. What is it that you're going to take them to do and see in Platteville? What are all the cool things that have changed over the past 20 years? And the community gets up literally and writes that down on a big piece of paper for me. And then the other question I like to ask is, what does it feel like? And I do mean feel. When you drive back into Platteville, what does it feel like? And you guys mentioned that a little in terms of the appearance, right? As usually what communities say. It feels warm, it feels welcoming, it feels friendly, it feels inviting. Because that's the vision for the future that your community would like to see. And that's going to be helpful. And then of course our steering committee, and that will result in your strategic plan. I know you guys read every minute detail in my proposal, so you probably don't have any questions. That was a joke. That was humor. Any questions about the process?
One thing, you brought up the holidays.
Yes.
The times you've done this over the years, are the winter holidays a hindrance or distraction, or is it basically elongate the process a little bit? Because you kind of get revamped up in January and everybody's in depression mode because holidays are over and the income taxes are coming, you know. So I mean, realistically, should we maybe keep March or April in the headlights maybe? I don't
Possibly.
know. I don't know.
And I think what will tell me a little bit more is how engaged they are in this initial survey process up through November. Because then what I like to do with this survey, let's say we get 800 responses. Because we're asking a lot of open-ended questions, 800 responses are thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of data for me to wade through. Because what I need to do for you and for the community is wade through that data, look at every single one of those, start to categorize them into themes and commonalities, and then generate a report. And that will take me about 3 weeks to do. So that's what I do sort of at the end of November. And then we release that in early December. And typically I think I've got a December 5th or so meeting date in early December with a, oh my gosh, this is what it said, what do you guys think? And get everybody kind of touch base again, send out some information, and then start again in January. But I think February is okay, based on what I know now. And I will tell you, I just had to extend the process by about 2 months because of the sheer amount of data that came through. So we did that, so we can have more time to read the data and understand it.
Well, more data is not necessarily a bad thing.
The more the merrier. If you ask me, the more people that are involved in this process, the better the result will be. With one caveat, your steering committee, I'd like to limit it to about 18 people. And the reason I say that is because it's really hard to manage a meeting if you have more than about 18 people. 2 hours is the bare minimum, and we really won't get much done in 2 hours with 18 people because of the amount of conversation, right? So, if you don't mind, maybe we can talk a little bit about survey questions. And let me give you some examples, but in the back of your mind, I'd like you to think, what is it I really want to ask? What is it I really want to know about economic development, about the prosperity, the future of Platteville? So you've heard my standard questions, which are, you know, what's going well? It's good to know, right? What are you doing well? We want to keep doing. What's not going so well? Always important. What don't you like? Now, we might not be able to change it or do anything about it, but at least we've heard what you think might not be going so well. What do you think we should focus on? Then I'll often ask questions like, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and you could change one thing about, maybe it's downtown Platteville, maybe you want to limit the question, maybe it's just Platteville in general, what one thing would your magic wand change? Asking the one thing question makes people focus on what's most important, but the magic wand concept is like, oh, I could do anything, right? Because really, this first series of questions, we want to make it less limiting. I don't want people to say, oh, we don't have the staff and we don't have the budget. I really want to know what you think, because then at the end, we can figure out where to go with that. So I usually ask the magic wand question. What else would be important to ask in this survey?
What kind of business they want to seek
Ah.
or not want to seek.
Ah, yeah, too.
I would think of maybe separate questions.
Uh-huh.
I think everybody knows.
What else do you think you'd want to know? If you could ask anything you wanted, what would you want? Well,
What would you be willing to pay for it?
this is an interesting question. Let me stop here for a second then and say, obviously all,
Implies taxes increases.
right, or there might be, it might be a sales tax increase, might be property tax, it might be some sort of, you know, you can do PIFs and GIFs and TIFs and all sorts of things to make that happen. What else would you want to know?
What other types of development that are not business related that could help vitalize the town, improve the town? A rec center,
Housing, something like that? How, would housing fit in there?
Housing.
And
Trail
the
system,
limit
fishing
to housing
pond.
as well. There's some sentiment that there's only so much that's gonna be accepted.
So
Well,
it's
it's
basically those,
interesting, right?
those non-business amenities that people would enjoy, whether it be for the teenagers or, you know, the couple in their 30s that just want to go out and get away from the kids for a couple hours. Seriously. I mean,
That spoke like a man who's got teenagers.
yep.
You know, you know this about, you guys know this about economic development. There's this relationship between heads and what type of business you can attract. And the number of people does drive a lot of these decisions, but you also have Highway 85 right there that drives a lot of those same decisions. As well as, you know, you've got demographics here that are gonna drive those business decisions as well. I think this is where that reality comes in, is, you know, it'll be interesting to, you know, ask this question and see. Sometimes people don't think big enough, because especially if you're thinking 20 or 30 years from now, we all know, have you seen the state demographer's numbers on how big yeah? So now you have to say 6,000 people here, that's a big difference. So part of what we might want to do is use this potentially as a little bit of a sharing of information. As in, the state demographer's office thinks we're gonna double by the year, 2040. What and how would we like to deal with that? So a question I've often asked, there's a word that the planners tend to use about visual preference. And that's really what Mike Tupin and students did. They showed you, here's 3 types of benches, which one do you prefer? It's really easy for people to react to something visual. Sometimes it's a lot harder to kind of see this. So in some of our community meetings, we'll probably want to do some visual preference work. So, you know, you guys said you'd like to see this type of business. So would it look like this, would it look like this, or would it look like that? Just try to narrow it down. Now, if you were gonna just focus on your business owners for a second, so let's think downtown only, and let's think both the land, the buildings which are not businesses, the buildings which are businesses. Let's think about that group of people. What would you like to ask them in a survey?
What can the town do to help revitalize?
Give me money.
Well, yeah, that's a big factor.
Yep.
We don't wanna break the town either.
Tax incentives, sales tax incentives, grant programs.
Influence, or incentivize, businesses that are downtown, to open them up. I mean, some of them are just storage, there's nothing in it.
So the question might be, what would incentivize you to create a business?
Yeah, or,
Really?
yeah, get a business going in that building.
Or improve the business, maybe?
Yeah.
Improve, did you say improve?
Improve. Yeah, because it's like, maybe that is the question that I was thinking, you know, what can the town do to help, you know, business grow or
Can we direct some of the businesses in our state or our town to the state has that small business association? Yeah, because when I was thinking about their business, I went to them and they helped me do some stuff. Are they available for current actual businesses at this time?
Yeah. You know, I think you guys are serviced by the East Colorado SBDC. I think that's your.
We, upstate.
Yeah, but.
This is different.
No, this is a small business.
This is like
Yeah.
small businesses that, like if I have a business I go to and say, hey,
I'm pretty
this is
sure
what I
it's
have.
her. I'll reach out to her and talk to her.
Okay. I've never talked to her.
They used to have one in Fort Lupton and
So, there's people I know that have nothing in their businesses on Main Street because they're waiting for something that fits their agenda.
So what is their agenda? I guess?
Yeah, what would they like to see in their building or available buildings?
And by the way, what would they like to see? The conversation I had with the mayor and your town manager was, my experience with business owners is it works best if you talk to them personally, but that might be very, very hard to do. Fortunately, we have a long period of time to do that. I don't necessarily want to compress. The community survey probably should be more compressed because it's sort of bigger picture and broader. And because this is more specific, we may want to talk about who do we absolutely need to talk to during the next 4 months. I mean, no matter what, Cheryl, if you have to camp outside the front door, you're going to be talking to them. Versus, okay, how many people do we want to make sure that we reach out to? Business owners are less likely to fill out a survey for all sorts of reasons, so it's going to be easier to talk to them personally. And that might actually involve you all helping me out with this too, because it's more likely they'll know you and trust you and talk to you, and this isn't anything that needs to be confidential, than they would to me. So, just a heads up, I may be asking for help on this one. At any time, if you think of extra questions, because what I'm gonna do after tonight is I'm gonna sort of draft up a list of the standard questions, I'm gonna add these, and then at our first steering committee meeting, I wanna bounce it off of them too, to see. So we have a lot of time to develop these questions, so you can always send me out. Speaking of the steering committee, and thinking back to this, say, group of 18 or so, what I'd like to do is I'd like to brainstorm a long list of names. Let's say we have 35 or 40 people up there. And then come back and decide who we'd like to invite, knowing that you might invite 30 people just to get 18 people to help you out, but that we'll probably need to stop around 18. My experience is if we have 18, somewhere between 12 and 15 will show up at any meeting, and that's probably a pretty good average.
Get people dropping off as the process moves forward.
Typically, I don't see that, especially when they three things are usually the question. How much time do you want from me, right? Because I'm busy. And the answer to that question, from my perspective, is we're going to want one longer meeting, like one long kind of afternoon, 4 to 6 hours, and the rest will be 2 or 3 hours here, 2 or 3 hours there. And when they know that it's spaced out like that, like maybe 3 meetings over the course of 4 or 5 months, then they feel a little bit better about that. The second question is, what exactly is my role? And the way we talked about the role, at least as part of this process, is really threefold. The first is they're sort of your advisory kind of group. They get to see all of this information. They hopefully will participate in this. But then when I ask them, all right, you've seen all of this information, what do you think is most important about this information? They're sort of the people that are going to give you advice. The second thing is, I'm hoping that this becomes the group that does in fact carry this process forward for you, and maybe even becomes part of the committee structure that you have set up. Maybe a smaller subset of this actually becomes your business committee and helps you that way. And then the third thing is, hopefully these people are all they're gonna understand this plan better than anybody else, and hopefully they become those ambassadors, if not champions, for the plan itself. So if somebody sees them at the grocery store, which you're gonna have 10 years from now, and says, hey, what about that plan? They're still your ambassador for the plan. So, what I want you to do, I can't talk and think about at the same time. Steering committee. By the way, steering committee an okay name? Task force, advisory group. Do you have a preference?
Steering's fine.
Steering is fine. I'm going to give each one of you a pen. I'm going to make 2 lists here. And in the back of your mind, I know you're already thinking, what names would I write up there? If you already see the name up there when you come up, let's say Cheryl's name is already up here, you can just put a little check mark next to it. You don't have to rewrite the name, you can just put a check mark. Yep, Cheryl's good to go. I was going to say Cheryl anyway. Write as many names as you like or can think of. And as you can tell, sometimes this becomes a whole lot of fun. So I'm going to drag out a few extra pieces of paper and we're going to put them at the back of the room. Now remember, these are smelly, so you're welcome to smell. Pick any color and pass it on. So the idea is that you, yourselves, are going to go ahead and write. Spelling doesn't count. I don't care if I can read it, as long as you know whose name you wrote down. We'll take about 5 or 7 minutes to do this. Here's one on the back wall by yellow. And at the end of that 5 or 7 minutes, I'll check in. If you need more time to write more names down, that's great. But if not, what we will be doing then is sort of going through the names, talking about them from the perspective of, the reason that you would ask them to be on the steering committee. And then we'll get to some more decision making. This might be really easy. You might just end up with 18 names off the bat. All right, I have 4 sheets up. I'm going to break you into groups of 4. Once everybody has a pen?
selective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have
yeah.
never said that they had others too.
As you can tell, blue or black. Those are kind of my go-to things. So, I'm going to randomly start. You're number 1. Ones are going to be back in that corner back there. So you are on the wooden door. All the ones are going to go to the wooden door at some point. You are number 2. 2s are underneath the fire alarm. Please do not set it off. You're number 3. 3s are right there. Give you 4. 4s are right there. You are a 1 and you're going to the wooden door. You are a 2. You are a 3. You are a 4. You are a, he is a 1. Is he coming back?
Yep.
He is a 1. You are a 2. You are a 3. Any questions about what you're about to do? You're going to take your pens. You're going to stand up. I'm going to put 5 minutes. You can assign one person to write if you want. Sometimes that works well. You can shove that one person out of the way, elbow them, step on them in order to get to the board and write whatever name you want. Whatever works. Your 5 minutes are on the board. Feel free to stand up at any point. There you go. What's it with the other one? You're the 1. You're number 1. You're right there on the wooden board. Oh,
So you have to write.
whatever name you think would be good to sit on the steering committee. If you don't want to get up and write, you don't have to. Just wanted to offer you the opportunity. You can stand there and see what it says. What you can do is wait till they write names down and go put like a hash mark through every spot. Just say you agree.
Need some young blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you all by your own? No. Oh, she's called that. I had one of those books as a kid, The Shadow. Right there.
I'm not DIS.
Oh, the steering committee.
I was gonna say, Shirley was on my knowledge, right?
Yes.
One hand right
You know, I was talking. Yeah.
Penny, is it okay
Spelling
if
doesn't count.
as I write your name?
Yeah, that's what I'm
What's your last name?
Rios, R-I-O-S.
R-I-O-S.
Is Benny short for anything?
No.
Just Benny. Had a friend named Greeley and his first name was Benicio.
So these are the people that are
Oh, yeah.
So these 2 people right here.
I spent all my money for so long.
Color match this.
So that's a fireman.
Some folks from the
Sean.
Hispanic.
Oh, yeah.
Who is that young man who volunteers for the football, wears glasses?
So if we don't have the last
name
name,
meetings?
how are we?
Jeremiah.
That's what I was thinking. That people vote
Yeah, I
on
think so.
that board.
Does he still live in town?
Yeah, yeah, you don't put it down, I will. Okay.
I want young people on here.
Yeah, they probably don't know who they are here.
Somebody knows who they are. We just have to. Yep.
It's the husband and wife on football.
Oh, of course, yeah. Because sometimes when one can't make it, the other does. It's like backfill too. Like sometimes I see when we write down, say, the school superintendent, they can't pick all the meetings. Do you still want the school to be there? So the vice principal or, you know, something like that. Substitute. The other one is somebody.
We're allowed to spoken people. Yeah, we know a lot of.
Those are my favorite ones because I find
You
they're
put Ronnie there? I
I
don't know what it is.
Labor was free and we just.
Get more property down. One person I know.
This is so fun to watch because there's a lot of first names and everybody's like, what is, you know how it is when somebody puts you on the spot and says, what is their name? You're like, Decker.
Come on.
Yeah. No, Linda Decker lives in Greeley.
You're always welcome.
So Linda, we need Linda Decker though, because her dad is
Maybe we did
Horace.
come.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
the
they
regular
were
meetings are-
invited to.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yeah.
they're a little dry, but
Yep,
this
I've
is
been
what's
talking
going
to
on
her
in
about it
town,
for a
and
while.
these are the people that are.
Yeah, making it so
That's
that
a lot
they,
of money.
You know, there's a lot of talk around town and stuff,
But nobody will come.
Nobody knows what's going on.
Well, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people say this and say, oh, they should do, oh, well, come to the meeting.
Yeah.
You know?
I
So
know
there's
that.
gonna be like a community meeting,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that, trying,
Right.
that's what kind of like,
Right.
Next door,
Yeah.
next to my high school.
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of people have a lot to
A lot of
say.
Mississippi.
You guys need a little more time?
Right.
We've got about 30 more
Absolutely.
seconds.
The only way it's gonna actually be heard and somebody's gonna happen is if you come.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, what is his name?
Who sells theirs?
The one there on Grand Avenue.
It's a little small town.
Yes, thank you.
John.
Hey, just put I don't know. Let's call Tom.
What is it?
Small town.
I don't know, his last name.
He's been around forever. He ain't putting that.
How about one more minute on the clock?
I don't know.
And then we'll talk about it, and I find that generates even more names.
Well, we're over there. We know a bunch of nicknames.
I don't want everybody
Committee can't be dead in 20 years, literally.
Sheldon, did you hear that? He wants some committee members that aren't dead 20 years.
It's like a cold theory, but it can't be dead in 20 years.
Wow, that's positive thinking.
Who's gonna keep it going? All
a
right,
new committee.
I'm gonna sit down before I get in trouble.
Yeah.
Too
All
late.
right, let's see how this is going. If anybody does need to take a break, now would be an awesome time to do that. Jennifer Lopez, I want her on my committee too. I'm just saying, she is pretty stellar. All right. Let's do this. Put them all behind so we can come up with the name.
You're absolutely correct. Except
We're
for
going to do a workout tonight.
So kind of interesting. Again. Is that what we're doing? Is that what we're doing?
Yes. We've been off.
You want a little break? Feel free to take a little break.
Thank you. I missed that. Everyone has to be names.
Trying to look out for you, Adrian, but
Thank you.
sometimes you're just not responsive to it.
I know, I know. It happens.
Not the highway or the highway. Everybody takes the highway.
Thanks guys for coming.
Oh, you're welcome, thank you.
Glad we came.
Yeah.
A grouchy lady in my house.
I figured you would at least get a sense of what we're trying to do here, you know what I mean?
I'm curious what's supposed to happen in February.
We're supposed to have a plan that we can act on, that's all I can tell you so far, right?
Yeah, I think that, you know, what's interesting is they're going into the budget cycle. So we're all just a hair bit late to get big stuff into the budget. But my guess is, as we start to talk about this, you'll see some little things that crop up that we might go right away, oh, let's go ahead and start that, because we can put it in the budget, because it's small, or, you know, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money or take a lot of resources. But then in February, you'll have a plan, an actual plan that's both pretty, because it's gonna be pretty. You need a pretty plan to convince people that they really want to be a part of what you do. It has to be clear, sort of inspirational too.
Smells good.
Smells good. Great, my personal favorite. But then the boring part of the plan is really, it's just a spreadsheet. It says exactly what are you gonna do and why, because you don't wanna do something just because it seems good or just because it sounds good. You wanna do it because it's accomplishing something. Who's gonna do it? Benny's gonna do it. By when? September 1st at 5 o'clock.
You really,
What's the
What
status?
are the?
she really nails it down, doesn't
Extremely
she?
specific.
Like the heck of a time
I'm
to join
not
us.
asking-
4:30, you better give that to her.
Obviously, you haven't formulated the plan yet, but in other plans that you have formulated, what are some of, and I guess closer to, some of the plans you formulated that you think would fit our model of a plan, right? So not Broomfield's
Wow.
plan, or,
Yeah.
a town that's 3 times our size, right? 'Cause that's gonna be much different, but,
You'd be surprised.
okay.
The basics of economic development are always the same. The basics of economic development don't really change. But I think, I'm not sure, I should let you finish your question, sorry.
Just what are some of the action items that come out of the plan, I guess, is what my question is.
So towns your size typically will say, and this is the Melissa brought up, we wanna know exactly what kind of retail will legitimately work here. So we can ask the community that, and Melissa and I probably both have a general sense of what types of retail or fast food or other types of businesses locate in towns with this type of demographic. But usually what you'll see is we need a professional to do a retail study, or we need to hire someone to go out there, whether it's working more closely with Upstate to market Platteville to those specific industries or those specific areas. One of the things that always happens with these is the groups I work with realize they need to really take the responsibility of their future in their own hands. Upstate's amazing, Upstate's great. You will get far more if you take it in your own hands and say, we are now gonna build our own marketing brochure. Because Upstate has a marketing brochure for you. It's just not the one.
Pretty late.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm rolling with that one. But yeah, if you do it yourself, and then you say, okay, and it's sort of like your own business, right? I'm gonna mail out 5 of these a month. I can do that, I can do 5 a month. But that's 5 more than anybody else was doing before you decided to do it yourself. And almost always, what happens is some sort of, I call them BEAR programs, business expansion, attraction, and retention, where there's an incentive plan that the town board adopts that says these are the types of incentives we're willing to offer for these types of businesses. And yeah, your budget the first year might be, say, $1,500, and it might be a matching grant. If you paint your building, we'll contribute $500 towards the painting of that building. Or if you plant flowers or whatever the case may be. So usually there are some bigger picture sort of consulting ideas that come out, but there's also some actions that the town takes upon themselves to really be more proactive.
Kind of open up the town for business a little bit more.
Yeah, yes, and it's usually just the degree, because Aurora is doing exactly the same things you guys are doing. They're just doing it on a much bigger scale for a much sort of, it's much more complicated for them because of the nature of their businesses. It's actually kind of nice to have it fairly simple. You don't quite have a blank slate, but you're pretty close, and that is nice to have. You've got beautiful bones. I was telling Troy and Adrian this earlier. Nice white streets, right? I mean, you don't have. You might think this, but I don't when I come to town. You don't need a tornado to fix your problems, right?
Right.
What needs to happen in most cases is those business owners need to see that you're willing to invest as well, and that they can then take that risk to invest, because we all know it's a business risk for them to invest money to spruce up or improve the facade or reduce the rent or do whatever it is they're thinking about.
Right. And that's kind of what I see too, is like us putting a matching fund program together of some sort, and also putting together like a whole resource center of other opportunities, whether it be that SBDC or USDA, because we are qualified with them as well. All sorts of resources that we can kind of hand a business on and say, hey, we're willing to invest in you, and here's some other ways to do it, and we wanna do whatever it takes to make help your business look better, and this is kind of what we want it to look like, right? If you're gonna make it look better, please, and also just because we want you to thrive, you know, if you thrive, we thrive, everything, right?
Well, you're familiar with Wellington, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Wellington's north of Fort Collins, and it was nothing more than sort of a dirt spot, ag town north, where if you didn't like the big city of Fort Collins, then you went to buy land. And they had, you might, if you ever get back up that way, you might sort of just take a stop by and see what they've done. It's pretty
Downtown's
remarkable.
changed quite a bit in the last.
Last 5 years,
Yeah,
probably.
10 years ago, that street was all empty, everything was,
Yeah.
they were leaving town.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, think about Platteville, I think you can sort of relate that, because that's really what Wellington looked like, even when I started working with them about and this is not too mean, but I started working with them about 5 years ago through the Main Street program, and, you know, they were able to, get together some funding to have somebody focus on their downtown, and then she was a whirlwind, and then they did some bike racks and painted some things, and did some signage, and all of a sudden the business owners kind of, now admittedly they're next to Fort Collins, so they're getting, kind of like Boulder and Erie, they're getting the leftovers, you know? But regardless, you guys are in a nice spot with regard to that too, so.
Cheryl,
Alright.
can I take a quick housekeeping moment?
Housekeeping.
Signature, write an offer to notarize. He's not here to arrest you, but he did say something about speeding in town.
That was Windsor, and I already got a ticket. Can you borrow that pen here? It's red, white, and blue. Feels appropriate. Would you like to see my ID?
Sure.
I don't have it.
Two originals that were signed, they're the same concept. Is that right, Mary? Two
When I
originals?
ran.
Yes.
You don't have to take my place, but, appreciate it.
Sorry.
Well, I could have signed that. Just put an
Of
X.
course, most people I know who live here want to be in a small town.
Yeah. That's why they came here.
We still keep a small town, but bringing people from outside other towns to our town.
Then it just gotta grow.
Going back to what Cheryl said
Well,
at the
when they're
beginning,
done,
be careful
when
what
they're
you
done
ask
spending
for.
money in
Thank you.
here, you can go.
I think that would be nice
We have.
at 5,000
Well,
people,
yeah.
it will still be a small town.
Oh, yeah, I think it's
Small town feel, still.
I'm not down by
Like a small town.
this way.
Is your brother?
Kind of hoping that, that same nostalgic.
I'm you as in the team, the Clark Yes.
Okay, he needs a driver's license, so I'll be right back. I really did bring one with me.
Sorry for interrupting.
Out the car, out the car, really it is. In the meantime, I formally appoint, that would be a really bad idea. Nick. What I'd like you guys to do is just take a look at the sheets on the back wall. You might have to stand up and kind of see if there are similar names. And maybe some of you in the group can fill in some of those last names. So Nick, what I'd do is I'd start with Shirley Davis. And does everybody know who Shirley Davis is?
She's on every list.
Right? And then Meg. And somebody's like, Meg who? Meg, right? And then you can fill in the back. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Andrew?
Go, Nick.
What's Reggie's last name?
Reggie, the former.
Reggie Huntington.
Huntington.
Who's
Alright,
wrong?
What is what?
Ronnie was, Melissa, right? Or no, that was,
Melissa
yeah.
Scout.
Ronnie's,
What's her last name?
we don't know her last name.
Ronnie.
How do you know her?
Yeah, I don't know Tom and Sherry, they knew their last name.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're my neighbor. My mom used to
I
be
know
so mad at
one
me.
by
Oh,
Beth.
yeah, when I meet a new friend and I know, oh, it's so-and-so. She's like, what's her last name?
Where does Bonnie live?
She lives somewhere over by, out Somewhere around here.
How about you, Troy?
I don't know her.
Esty is Rio Frio.
Yeah, Rio Frio, that's
Rio
right.
Frio for Esty.
She's the one
Can you
in
spell
the
that?
school.
R-I-O.
F-R-I-O.
Yes.
R-I-O-N.
Brenda's last name,
Odenbach.
no.
Duke
Champion that I forgot his name, Charles.
Do we ever, Ronnie's last name, anybody know?
So, do they wanna hear from the people who
Should we
don't?
cross off?
Well, but this
Brenda?
is the steering committee,
Oh,
the
this
people
isn't
who
the-
don't want, like things are the survey
Oh, I need
people.
to put them for.
Abby Horseman.
Hey, Cheryl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brenda Odenbach, they're the same family.
What was
Oh, they
Charles'
are?
last name?
What's Brenda's last
I
name?
don't think they like you.
By Cheryl Trent, let me spell that.
I'm trying.
For Jones?
You know
I don't
what?
wanna share the river.
So, just back to the steering committee idea. We definitely want a wide range of people. So think about a range in ages. Is there maybe a teenager or a kid?
We put it in the high school, middle school, youth coalition.
Oh, yeah, good.
I'll take them as young as 12 or 13. I found them perfectly capable of
The youth
pitching
coalition
in.
at the middle school.
Middle school, the student council kids there.
And now that school's back in session, right?
Eagle Scout there.
That's Jason
Oh,
Hansen.
Jason Hansen.
What was Charles' last name?
Oh, yeah.
They would belong.
Are you
Would
serious?
be-
Yeah,
that would be a good
yeah.
way to tailor the civic engagement.
It's Morgan.
So senior citizens, think about people who've been really active about a particular cause.
Yes.
Maybe they're always showing up in front of you, or they're super active trying to get something done in the community, a park, a rec center, housing, dog park, water, electrical,
Probably put Eric in,
emergency prevention, I don't know what it is, but something.
Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Eric and Rebecca Sprague.
I have them on there, yeah.
Yeah.
I pretty much just put the whole, park show trees and up there.
Who added Jennifer Lopez?
So think about people who've
Is
been
that in
here.
this town?
Jennifer Lopez is the new manager based in Jones.
Oh, really?
Okay, oh, yeah.
I honestly
Must
thought
be
so.
like,
Wow,
This is
that's
a wish
loyalty
list,
there.
right?
And we used to have a
So-
code off named Chris Pratt.
Right, okay, yes, that's right. So FR store right there, that his name is Matt. I don't know Matt's last name. And then at Morning Fresh Farms, her name is, hang on, let me find my Facebook page.
We could cross Shirley off. Do you want to cross off the duplicates?
Yeah, we will. Yeah, no problem. Don't. Nick,
I haven't gotten
Nick
that
is
far.
a,
I'm
Nick
just
is a
trying to
one
get
guy,
his last name.
one person at a time kind of guy there, so kind of like me, so.
Okay, morning fresh. You stuck on that?
I'm doing, her name is Maggie Campbell.
Oh, you're lefty too. I'm sorry, I made you do this. Stop.
What
So
other,
it is your whole elbow gets dirty when you're
young
lefty.
people?
The what?
what other young people?
Maggie is the younger generation running Morning Fresh Farms, like our age.
That's why I put down Jared Henderson too.
Yeah, Jared as opposed to Gary, yeah. It's Gary.
'Cause, yeah, Jared actually runs the dairy.
Mhm.
So the other thing to think about is people that have been in town a long time, and then maybe people who are brand new.
Just cross out the duplication.
Sure, that would be perfect.
That would be great.
Yeah, you never know.
We got the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
Hector up there,
Victor Talavera.
Talavera. Oh, we definitely need.
And then I put down, and she's Lucy,
I was thinking Lucy Montoya.
Brenda,
Put her on the list.
yeah, she's on our list. I think,
What about
yeah, she's
over
on our
like the
list.
restaurant, they were gonna do the food truck. I don't think they ever opened, did they? Oh, we have the Mexican market.
There's a Montoya, Lucy's, is
Well, you
Lucy's.
guys can tell me which ones you see.
What's that?
Leanne and,
Okay, I'm about to rescue you here. I think I'm done.
what's his name?
I mean, we can volunteer people that we don't know are gonna say yes for sure at all, right?
I would volunteer whoever you think is gonna be good, and then our next step will be to figure out how to, best invite them. Because one of the things I'll be doing after tonight's meeting is I'll be creating basically a little blurb about the steering committee, what it's up to, We can get it out on Nextdoor, we can get it out any way you like and say, oh, by the way, you may see some information about this, and that way people will get excited about it, is the hope. Okay, Nick, I'm gonna rescue you. Ready?
No, leave me alone.
Nope.
I like the stage.
So we're, oh, go ahead.
I like the stage.
He likes the pen.
Yeah, you really got me on that purple marker there. I know it doesn't write anymore because you sniffed all the ink out of it.
Okay, I'm just gonna take left to right.
So just so you know, I was doing, Shirley Davis had 2 other, so 2 checks by her,
Perfect.
same thing with the other, Mike and Alicia Cowper.
Cool. Now, if you do not know who these people are, or you do know what their last name might be, I'm gonna run through them one by one. It'll be your opportunity to just ask. So the point of this is to be super positive in the sense that these are all the good reasons this person might be on the committee. We will not be having a conversation about why you would not want them on the committee yet, okay? So we're holding all negative thoughts for later on tonight over beer. Shirley Davis, apparently everybody knows Shirley Davis, okay. Becky and Eric Spray. Somebody asked me about couples. So let's say you're talking about the school district and you really want the principal, but we know the principal can't make every meeting, so they might want a substitute. And it's okay to have 2 names or even 3 names representing one agency because one person might not make all the meetings, but it's really important to have that representation. Becky and Eric Spray. Paul Eisenach, Meg Andrews, Charlie Pepper Morgan, is that a spouse name?
That's what he's known by.
His nickname, Pepper, okay. Hector Talavera, Benny Rios, I've heard that name somewhere before. Jeremiah Oberman, Nate and Gail.
Who's Nate and Gail?
They're a couple, they live by the Overland Tractor, right behind there.
Oh, okay.
I don't know their last name.
Hang on, I'll pull it up later.
We'll come back to Nate and Galen.
Oh.
Reggie Huntington, Ronnie,
I don't know her last name either.
whereabouts business.
She's right around here. She's been here forever. I've talked to her.
Long time, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, long time.
Do you remember what street she might live on?
No, I know it's right. It's really close to here. She's like, I live right by Town Hall. I'll find. You text her? I don't talk to her that often.
Oh, okay.
We can always do a door knock.
They-
We can wander around.
Lives by Town Hall.
Lives by Town Hall, thank you. We can wander around, Ronnie.
That's after beers, right, so we got an excuse?
Yeah, exactly. Curtis Mort,
It's gotta have an alibi.
Yeah.
Scott Spence, Tom and Cherie Nix.
Sherry,
Nix,
I didn't know
Sherry.
her was
Nix,
Sherry.
no, that's
Yeah, their last name's down, I didn't know their last name, but,
How do you
Is
say
it Mascarena?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. Steve Schaefer. Mike and Alicia Cowper. They're a duplicate too, looks like. Okay.
yeah.
Daryl Phillips, John and Steph Sturdivant, Richard Hanslin and Jason Ateen. Is
That's
Jason
his,
pronounced?
that's his son,
Son
I
Jason?
just put teen on there, that's, you're looking for teen.
Yeah, absolutely. Debbie Rivera, Jeff Cogburn, like Rooster Cogburn.
Yes, just like that. He's on the fire department, but he's like old.
Yeah.
He's very well known in town.
And school district.
Yeah, and the school district, yeah.
Yeah, double or triple representation is always helpful. Lucy Montoya, Sean Roberts, Brenda
Yeah, I'm trying to find
B-Ray,
him.
is that her nickname?
Yes, her nickname, yeah.
Essie Riofio, Linda Decker, John Ruppel, Larry Hatcher.
Yeah, Larry's
That's
back here.
right here.
Oh,
Here's what it is.
Rick Fergie, Mike Evans, Dan Durkee, I'm in some weird way, I apologize for that. Jared Hendrickson, there really is a Jennifer Lopez. Maggie Campbell, is it also Derek Campbell?
I just know Maggie.
I just know Maggie, okay. And Matt from the Clothing Place.
I can text my husband and find out his
Yeah,
last name.
can't think of his last name right now.
Yeah, I'll text my husband.
And then did you, Nate and Gail last name? Did we figure out one there?
No, cause everything, that property is listed under a trust.
Okay. All right. So the idea here is that we'll create some information. We will reach out to these people one way or the other, I'll come back to that, and we will invite them to participate. And even more than inviting, we want to explain why it's super important to have them participate. And for me, the reason it's important is a couple of things. They're going to bring a different perspective, a different vision, a different viewpoint to the table that we might not have considered. The more people that bring those different viewpoints, I think the better the end result is. And we can also have the opportunity to learn from them, and they can have the opportunity to learn from us about what we can and can't do, about what they would like to see us do or not do. So, one thing that sometimes happens is if you end up with, say, 30 names, all 30 people say yes. And then we start to panic, because 30 people is a whole lot of people, but there are ways to deal with that, and usually what I'll do is break them into groups. And so we'll function off a group, okay, which group wants to focus really just on X, which group really wants to focus on Y, and we'll just split them up. So, my counting is bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So right now we have 35 potential, which, can expand a little, because if you're like me, you're gonna go home at about 2 a.m., you're gonna go, oh, why didn't I write down so-and-so's name?
Brenda's last name is Bassett, and the next one to your left. B-Ray, yep. Bassett, B-A-S-S-E-T-T. Matt Brzezinski.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
That's why I couldn't remember it.
Yes, I know. He texted me back, he says Brzezinski-ish. Question mark.
Perfect, okay.
And there's about 10 that just say they're gonna be too busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would highly recommend that you have a business owner.
So Sean Roberts is business owner.
Yeah.
Matt
So,
Brzezinski.
right,
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans.
where, oh, there it is.
Paul Eisenhower.
That many?
Some are property owners, but not business owners.
Which is
So-
okay too, because that's nice to have that. too.
Darrell Phillips is probably the largest landlord in town.
Yep,
Yeah.
that
You can pronounce Floyd.
Yeah, Lisa Martin with
Martin, with the PTA in school, or no, maybe I think there's a different one. She hosts the carnival with the PTA.
the PTO.
We ran into this before,
So Lisa Martin is
Hold up a
business
second,
owner.
only one conversation at a time, because that's all my limited brain can handle. I wrote Lisa Martin's name down though, just in case that's
I don't
her.
think she's with the PTA.
Okay.
She's married, I can't think of her husband's name. He was manager for Magnus Land and Cattle. They live south of town.
Oh, yeah, Keith, is his name?
Keith, I think it is.
And by the way, remember the interviews. So let's say we ask Darrell Phillips, and he's like, no, I don't have time to be an engineering committee. Would it be okay for Cheryl to call and set up a time to personally interview you? That's always a good backstop or
Oh,
backfill.
Sure.
Or some of these you might say, we already know they're gonna say, they're likely to say no, so let's set them up for an interview. Because almost always I can get somebody to talk to me as a part of the interview.
And one of the things, it's kind of a conversation piece when we're doing this is, we need to make sure we have some voices from the Hispanic community, because they're a large component of the community itself, so I don't. There are.
So we've thrown in Essie for that,
There-
and
there-
Lucy Montoya.
There's some out there already, which is good, but,
But it's something to definitely keep in mind.
yeah, and then of course the youth is up there, we get them involved too.
our seniors, I was gonna say, it's the same thing about the Hispanic community, cause the population's like almost 40%, right? And 40% is not represented here, and
Well, then what do we do? Why don't you, Sarah Mondragon is a Garcia who owns,
Well, what about Garza?
Garza, I'm sorry, yeah, not
Garza on
Garcia,
Main
Garza.
Street, he owns half the block.
Yep, so you can ask him, right now they're in Guadalajara, but Sarah's here, their daughter.
Yeah.
What about
Debbie Rivera is my neighbor to the north, and she's pretty well connected with some people.
Yep, she's a
They
good
have a
one.
large family in town.
Yeah, that would be the Navarretes and the Garcias.
They're white,
Yep.
same
Mhm.
So I am due to get you out of here in about 15 minutes.
We won't stop you.
Good. So here's my question to you. You know Platteville better than I do. My assumption would be, it would be better for Spencer to pick the 3 or 4 people that he really knows well, that he would at some point in the next, say, 2 weeks, I'll give you a bunch of information to do this with, don't panic on me. He would go to them or call them or reach out to them and invite them to be on the steering committee. Any leftovers, if you will, that nobody has picked, I am more than happy to do that, and I'm more than happy to do that for every single one of them. But what that usually means is Mary has to create a list for me and get me all the emails and all the phone numbers and all the, right? So, you gave up your pens a little too soon. In the back of your head, and then I'll just have you come up, sort of in a row, kind of like a wedding reception. In the back of your head, think about the maybe 2 or 3 people that you would be willing to personally ask, and I'm gonna have you write your name next to that person's name. So, if the name's already taken, then of course, the contractor's pencil, it's got his pencil, scaring me. And then if there's anyone, left, or if you really, really, really want to ask someone, you guys can kind of trade off. Does that sound like a good way to do it? So, I'll have you write your own name up there. Whose birthday is in September? Please go first.
Today's Harold's birthday.
Today is your birthday?
Yes, it is. I just dawned on me. Happy birthday, Harold.
We'll sing to you momentarily. His birthday is in October. You'll be next. You'll be after him. Whose birthday is in November? Whose birthday is in December?
Victor's last name.
Okay, so you'll wander right back here.
Calavera.
And then we'll set the next group up. So, you've got your own pen.
I just wait for him to go down.
Harold, you and my son,
Oh, well, go ahead. If you
birthday.
if you see a blank spot that you want to get to before he gets there, please go ahead.
Andrew's birthday's today.
Wow.
First day of school football game, we're here, so we
You guys wanna
celebrate.
talk to Tom and Sherry? I can talk to him and neighbor.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you-
Talk.
And whose birthday is in January?
I don't know.
February? I guess you can ask yourself, Larry, by the way. I guess you can ask yourself. I don't think anybody's gonna volunteer to ask you.
Yeah.
So let me know how it goes,
And Benny too.
cause I hear you're kinda difficult to work with, so.
Whoa.
Call it out, right?
Hard crowd, hard crowd.
Hard crowd. So yeah, I'm just assuming you'll ask, is that okay? And then what I will need eventually is the contact stuff.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Don't go past February without
Have
getting
it.
it there.
Who was January?
No, I'm coming.
You're February? You guys will be next.
May.
Just pick the 2 or 3. February. And March. April. May. May. Ooh, I picked 2 weird colors. How about a red? Red's kind of
Let's see, Diane's birthday's in
Melissa,
May.
did you know anybody? Do you want to ask anybody?
I don't know any of them. No, tell me.
So what you'll see come through Mary will be sort of a little bit of a list for you. Because I will need contact information, I'll need correct spelling of names, emails. So you'll have a little bit of homework to do when you talk to your person if they say yes. But I will also give you sort of a handout that you can leave behind with them or you can just use to talk to.
This is like the cliche
See, now
smell.
they're sniffing.
That's the
Great.
childhood memory
Totally great.
smell. It's
Yeah,
that
that's like grape Kool-Aid.
I like the bubble-ishness.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, bubble. But evidently, yes.
I forgot about these. This is a good,
That's
it's a
okay.
throwback.
It's like raspberry with sparkles.
How do you smell sparkles? 'Cause
I don't know, that's all I can describe it as.
He's right though. I wonder if it's like cotton candy or something.
Did you get to try any
You
of
can
your
smell
smells?
sparkles.
He just wants to do
You
3
can. It's like fizzy.
Oh,
You're
no,
right.
you'd be ambitious.
I've sniffed it before.
Oh, rude. So I might need to recycle some of these. Thank you.
I was gonna say, I can do a lot more
Nobody's
too.
gonna call Shirley, then she will.
Who's got Shirley?
Nobody yet.
Okay.
You should talk to Cheryl.
It's about time for her champagne or water.
Jeff, maybe.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah, you go ahead.
Oh.
And Lucy, you want to talk, Lucy?
Yeah, I can talk to Lucy, that's fine.
She's mad at me, I'll put Jeff.
Okay, put me on me, that's fine. I'll do the youth coalition, I gotta meet with them anyway.
Well, if his name is.
Who put Brenda back to the?
That's me.
Okay. And who
How
you
old
guys
are
say?
you today,
Sarah?
I can do Sarah.
Lisa Martin?
I can
Carol's
do
not
her
a
too.
day
I already
over
talked to her,
42.
She wants to be in.
Okay.
You're not a day over 42.
Times two, maybe.
Times two.
It's all that good, clean living that keeps you looking good.
Well, that's not it.
Well, that's not it. So, hey, you know, the devil has a restraining order.
Benny, you're gonna have to talk to Nick and Gail.
Okay,
Whoever
okay,
they
yeah,
are,
I'll get
along
them.
with whoever, your.
Ronnie,
Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie is.
I could drop them off tomorrow, the names.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, I'll send a little email out to Mary, yeah.
67th, Mary Queen on his.
Yes.
Seven.
So yes, let's talk a little bit before we sing to Harold.
Yes,
I'm gonna bring my whistle out on you guys.
okay, but to understand, the devil still has a restraining order.
I'll
That's
find
why
her.
I'm here.
You're stuck in purgatory or?
No, he doesn't want.
He doesn't want you to kick you back.
Yeah.
So here's what I think we should do in terms of our next steps. So just to let you know, what I do with all of this is I take photos and then I leave it behind for Mary, who gets to clean up after me. My advice usually is to hold on to it for like 30 days before you recycle it. Sometimes people will, even though I type these exactly the way they come up, sometimes this visual reminder works better for people. So I'm going to create a spreadsheet of these names and the name of the person that was going to ask them, which I'll send to you as well. And it'll have a few other blank spots in it. It'll say like email and phone number so that we can reach out to them whichever way they prefer. If we have to reach out to them by snail mail, it's going to be problematic. So if they don't have email or don't want me to use email, I'm happy to give them a phone call to tell them about a meeting or to talk about an agenda. They can come pick up an agenda at town hall, whatever works better for them. But one of those two ways, just to remind you, and then I'll give you some talking points. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask, talking points, so I was gonna see, what do we ask, we wanna be on the
Yes.
steering committee, what's that? I'll let you know.
You'll figure it out.
So yeah, the idea is, the general idea is that, and I learned it's important to tell them what's going on and then tell them why it's so important that they be involved. So the town of Platteville is undertaking an economic development strategic plan. It's super exciting for us because we get to start to create our own future. What we look like in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years is really up to us as a community. So we've hired a consultant and we want you to help give us advice on where we're gonna go. So you'll get lots of information as we go along, and here's a handout. I'll send Mary a handout that she can print out for you that you can leave behind with them. That'll talk about sort of the time frame, what their commitment is. It'll answer the most common questions.
We should wait to talk to them before.
If you
till we
want,
get the material.
you don't have to, but if you feel comfortable enough just reaching out and telling them what's going on, that's great. You can always pass along my information. And if you have any detailed questions, you can ask the mayor, you can ask Troy, you can ask Cheryl, any of that. I'd be happy to. But I planned on creating some information about what we talked about tonight in the next 2 or 3 days and getting it back out to you. So if you want to wait till next week, that's fine as well. Now, I have been told that, is it Tuesdays or Thursdays, Troy, that don't work? Tuesdays don't work very well for meetings because you guys have your meetings on Tuesdays.
Typically Tuesdays, and our sons play football every Tuesday through the end of
I
October.
never even thought about that, so.
Yeah, so I prefer not Tuesdays if possible.
So I've heard that Tuesdays are off the table, so that really leaves us with Wednesdays and Thursdays, just because Mondays, Fridays are the big no-no. Don't do anything on a Friday night, and Mondays tend to be a little iffy. But I think, that we had sort of tentatively set our first meeting for Thursday the 12th on the basis of that. So you can definitely share that with them. There'll be sort of an introductory meeting. If they're a little bit on the fence, it'll be a short meeting. It'll sort of be this big overview like you got today. Let them know what we're doing, why it's important, and kind of let them decide what they want to do for meetings from that point forward. So that might be a good thing to tell them. Is it going to be here? Is that okay, or we had talked about the community center,
I think we
talked
should
about.
come here to like the senior
The
center.
senior center.
Senior center?
really
Because they have already
comfortable.
preset tables and chairs and everything, and it's just, it's a
Government.
non-government feel. It'd be more comfortable for them.
Okay.
What time?
Typically, my recommendation is after work, but, not so late that they're gonna miss something with the kids. So the first meeting, I think, should start maybe about 6 and maybe end at 7:30. The commuters, that gives them time to come back home, check in, change clothes if they need to. And I'd also recommend, if it's okay, that we tell them, hey, if you need to bring your kids, I don't care if the kids are there.
Yeah, they're
right?
fine.
It doesn't matter to me at all, that's not gonna disturb me, so if they need to bring kids or something.
You got toys they
that's
can play with, so.
fine. Yeah, toys.
Troy, we also had talked about having like a community kickoff event.
I think we're gonna get to that.
Is that what we're gonna happen?
Yeah, we're.
I cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry at all. I'm still trying to get you, I'm not gonna get you out of here by 8:30. Yes, so one of the things is that you really want, you don't wanna just dive in with the survey because everybody's like, but I don't even understand this, there's no context. So I understand that Nextdoor works really well in town. I understand that posting things here at Town Hall works really well. I understand you have several churches. So the idea is with this information that, I understand you're the Nextdoor guy, it's written. Are you the Nextdoor guy, or is that just?
Oh, no, that's just another,
That's just something else?
Another
Okay, that's
thing.
just-
Actually, the
You're not
mayor
the
is the next door person.
Thank you, Troy. I happen to like
She's
it.
our champion.
I look at this little
And I will do Everbridge, which is the phone messages.
Well, and this is I think this is
Got
the
that
thing
radio
behind this.
voice.
Any way that works to communicate in your community is the way we gotta use. And there's probably 5 or 6 ways. Post it up here at Town Hall, we put it on Nextdoor,
The senior community reads the Northwell Herald a lot. Do they still?
Yeah, but I think if we send it out.
Oh, and they'll
through
get
Janet-
their bills too.
No.
I like the
no.
manager's message.
Utility bills already went out.
If it's in October, because we already
Yeah,
sent out
October.
September today.
Oh.
yeah.
But they have a lot of big senior events coming up, we can put up,
Well,
The schedule.
next Saturday is a senior barbecue,
yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
so.
And one of the things that you wanna do, you can either have an actual sort of event, or you can just have information leading up to the first community meeting, which I think we tentatively set for October 12th. I can't, or my time.
October something, yeah.
I'm on October. Make it back up. That's perfect. There it is.
I think October 7th, roughly, community engagement, never mind.
And I do know that we were thinking about releasing the survey in early October and running through sort of early November. Usually 30 days is more than enough for a survey. I usually like to compress it a little bit, where I'll do the interviews first, for the first couple of weeks, and then keep the survey open for a couple of weeks. If you keep it open for too long, there's no sense of urgency, and if it's too short, people forget about it. So, that 30-day window.
When will you get your list of,
Oh, there we go.
interviews?
October 3rd. Oh, yeah.
October 3rd.
So, the first steering committee meeting, the steering committee kickoff on the 12th of September, and then the first steering committee meeting, I think we can make that sort of a nice big kickoff opportunity if we wanted to do that. Now, people do that different ways. Obviously, the community is invited to every meeting we have. It's gonna be a public meeting, it's not a public record meeting, but it's a public meeting, the more the merrier. We should publish it, whoever wants to attend can, and again, we hope that you guys attend. So any other thoughts about some sort of a kickoff opportunity?
No, it was planned, talked about, and I was just wondering if
Yeah.
we're still doing that.
Well, we still wanna do the whiteboards, and we still want to do the sticky notes, and I'm hoping the steering committee on the 12th, which is just 2 weeks, what is it tonight, 10 days from now. So, basically just a very short period of time from now, but the steering committee can help us with some of that too, and maybe give us some good thoughts and feedback about it.
What time are we putting it in?
Probably about 6 o'clock.
Yep.
Sometimes I say 5:30, but I don't think that's enough time for people to commute, right? So it's 6 o'clock.
So there's, on the community meeting, there's 2 trains of thoughts. We initially thought the weather was nice, we could do it at the park, that way the kids would be entertained, but keeping focus and it may be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping everybody together, there's distractions. Or we could do it at the community center, which we just renovated, one large big room, which is housing enough people, and has a kitchen. And then we could turn on the ball field lights and the kids can go play, you know, that way you don't have to worry about babysitting. I mean, there's some different thoughts to that community engagement meeting. But with the, this past spring, I hosted a community builders workshop. So I have a CDPHE grant that has some funds left, because Spencer spent most of the rest of it.
So I'm saying, if
It's
you're not gonna
amazing.
spend it, I'll take the rest.
But
It's
we have some money set
amazing.
aside where we can buy some food, some refreshments, some, poster boards to advertise it, and I have the funds to do that,
Perfect.
help with that.
Okay. So I think, your big major event for the year just passed, but we did put some whiteboards up. So people probably saw that and you didn't.
It didn't work out.
I was gonna say, I didn't see
Underhand,
the
please.
boards you're
Yes.
talking about.
Okay, never mind. Didn't work out.
No.
So, I think we should regroup a little bit on the whiteboard strategy, because I think the whiteboards will work out, especially at schools where you can do the post-its that we were talking about, or at the senior center where they have some regular meetings. At church is another place I often put them. We talked about putting it down at the it's not technically, it isn't technically, I guess, a gas station, but the little food place where everybody goes to grab a snack. See if they'd let us put
There's
it
some
down there.
venues, we use a senior barbecue next Saturday, they would definitely put some comments on there. School has some stuff coming up, I mean,
And do you guys have whiteboards? You're good to go on the whiteboards? Do you need easels? Cause I have like,
With the
I
silver
have stuff.
spur, be
We
interested
don't
in
have
maybe
street.
putting some up there?
I wasn't sure.
We
whether
have
you-
whiteboard.
what I will do is I will leave,
Different perspective.
I have, I think 4 with me tonight, I'll leave 2, I have like 10 easels, just like this, so.
Okay, well, thank
Let's
you.
put some in rotation for you, because it's so much easier to prop them up on something sturdy than it is otherwise. And then, we'll get the sticky note started. So everything's sort of rolling forward. I don't wanna get too far before I get the steering committee involved, and the reason is because I want them to be able to create some of this excitement themselves by thinking of different ways to reach out to the community. So I don't wanna create a full-blown marketing plan and then start implementing it without really having that ability for them to feel like they're,
That makes sense.
like they're really kind of this really truly advisory, really truly kind of driving the show. So what I will say is, however you guys would like to run it, I don't mind if you email directly, if you email through Mary or email through Troy, and they collect it all and send it to me. You asked about the interview names. So the fallback position on the steering committee, if they say, gosh, I really don't have time for that, well, would you be willing to have Cheryl interview you? It takes about an hour, she can do it on the phone, or she can meet with you wherever you are and do an interview. They'll almost always say yes to that. So that's the first way. The second way is to, again, think of people that you normally wouldn't hear from. You mentioned, for example, the Hispanic community, and I am not bilingual, but I'll bet we can tap into somebody in the community that is, that could come with me and help me with that interview.
Brenda Bassett is the translator for the school district.
Perfect. So if I needed help with that, then I'm sure that
And
we
our
could
code
reach out to
officer
that.
also is by name.
Maria,
Yeah.
she knows a lot of people in the community,
Yeah.
she was raised in.
So, usually the people that are interviewed are, members of the school district, right? They're people that are your partners that are gonna be critical and influential in driving you forward. I would suggest that we interview, for example, upstate Colorado. And again, this is confidential, but she'll tell me, look, it doesn't matter which one of those two I talk to, either he or she'll tell me, you know, hey, this is what Platteville needs to do, this is what they don't need to do, this is what's not working for them.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, Kathy will tell you
Uh-huh,
everything.
Kathy will tell me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, those are the type of people I usually like to interview. So it's not as focused on specific community members as it is on sort of, I'd call them in today's language, key influencers in the community. People who could, if they really supported you, really make a huge difference. And also people who, if they weren't behind the plan, could really kind of drag you down a little bit.
So what if there's names?
Ah, well, let's write them down.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it doesn't, you don't have to tell me good or bad, as a matter of fact, I'd rather go into that not knowing. So we're thinking maybe upstate, is it okay to write upstate down?
That's great.
Okay. What else?
Horseman,
How do you spell that last name?
Horsman.
Just like it sounds. The first
No,
name
E.
is a C or a K? C-A-T-H-Y?
Horsman.
Who else should I interview?
The County Commissioner Barb Kirkmeyer.
You're gonna make me talk to Barbara Kirkman.
You know Barb? Barb,
She's not scared.
Barb likes Platteville.
Yes,
She does, yeah.
Yeah.
She was the manager in Hillcrest for a while.
Yep.
So she knows.
She and I
knows
worked
really
at
well.
Tornado.
Odenbaugh,
One more time?
Brenda Odenbaugh.
Realtor, farmer, president.
How about someone from the school district?
Can't think of Lisa's last name, but trying to get in contact with her husband is a manager for Magnus Landing Cattle. I think his name is Keith.
Yes, Keith. Principal at the middle school, Darren Deemer. He's been here probably 10 years.
Deemer, D-I-E?
E-M-E-R-T.
You could put by Lisa's name, head of the PTA at the elementary.
That's Trish Pike.
Oh, it's Trish.
Amanda Blackwell.
Well, then Trish probably knows Lisa then. I'll get a last name.
And you may want, you guys were talking about, was it Daryl?
Daryl Phillips,
He
yeah.
may be better for an interview on the
Probably.
steering committee, and Mr. Garza, I know you mentioned Sarah as his daughter.
I heard that Mr. Garza is sick.
He's down in Guadalajara right
Yeah,
now.
he's in Mexico.
Yeah.
And sure, I would put down Mike Evans probably as an interviewer.
Yeah, he's not gonna be.
He's not gonna go to meetings, not unless you go to his house.
How about the people that own the shell?
I don't know who they are.
It's on 60?
What
People that own the shell.
Oh,
Shell
petroleum
station, or-
management.
Yeah.
I have one.
The developers.
Go ahead.
This is that one
The-
farm.
I gotta do their name
Platteville
right
Energy
quick, I'm
Park.
sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, that's not.
yeah. Another good name sure would be Dale Boehner, B-O-E-H-N-E-R. He's one of the co-developers of the Platte Energy Park. And all that property south of Centera with Shields and all that. He'd be the big one.
Vanessa Ramirez. She's attached to Tijuana's. She's the daughter of the owner there. She's the Mexican restaurant.
Anybody from the faith-based community?
Phillips Kennedy.
What's the preacher's name of the Methodist church too?
Phil.
His name? Phil? Yeah, there's Phil.
Like I said, that last name.
Hey, you know about your neighbor, Scott? Used to do the beer garden.
Yeah. Scott.
Or Wendy
Scott
Mass.
Millie. Austin.
Austin.
I have to say it all. Scott
Yes.
Millie.
And the way these usually work, by the way, is I get emails if I can, if we can find emails. I will cold email them, and I'll just say, hey, this is what we're up to in Platteville. I'd really love to have the opportunity to interview you, please let me know. About half people get back to me right away and say, yeah, let's set up a time. Takes me about a week or so to get through that first 10 or so. And then I reach back out to the second group, and some of them will drop off. So we should probably come up with about 25 names. And those, as people don't reach out back to me or say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time, we can just move to the next name.
Philip
So-
Vogels is the pastor at the First United Methodist Church in town.
Dan Dennison.
Was it the Catholic Church that was so heavily?
I want to forget about,
Yeah, the Catholic Church is very nice.
Yeah.
I don't know the pastor though.
That's
Richard Smith.
Scott Austin.
Or Wendy Madison.
Or Wendy Mass.
Richard Smith is the pastor at the Catholic Church, it says.
No, Rich Smith or Plank.
Oh, planning commission, who's, you know, the pastor of the.
Well, that does bring up a good point, planning commission, right? You may want somebody, and from any of your others, I mean, I know you have you headed up, but you've got the, I mean, I totally messed it up, parks, trails, and trees?
Trees committee. We do have at least one planning commission member on the steering committee, hopefully, Steve Schaefer.
What about?
Are there representatives from Valley Village or Bella Vista in our group?
Oh, Bonnie Dunstan.
Yeah, Bonnie Dunstan. She'll do an interview, but she won't be part of the.
What about Mike Helper?
Yeah, Mike and Alicia.
I know, but would he be better on an interview, cause
Oh,
he hasn't made the last couple
I don't know.
planning meetings?
All right.
Alicia will do the committee,
All
the
right,
steering
so-
committee.
No, my former mayor.
Oh,
Mrs. Freezer. Guy named Platte River.
it's still good, background's good.
What
Sometimes it's fun to
about
walk into this
champion
cold.
of, Valley Village, is there such a
I'm trying to
person?
think of who else in, you know what, put down Hayden Shaughnessy.
What about, Colette?
Colette.
That's what I was thinking, Colette, right? Does she live in town?
She lives there.
She lives there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Colette.
there's, you know, you bring up a point, from my perspective, it doesn't matter if they live in town or not. They
Yeah.
have, that might even be a more unique perspective than as someone who doesn't live here, but knows you well enough
What
to
about
be
that
able
lady
to.
that's the manager?
How about Steve Reeves? He used to live here.
He used to live here, yeah.
I don't know her name.
Oh, yeah, one more would be Joan Camp.
No, you're fine. So the same thing here, when I do this list for you, it'll probably spark some more names.
Yeah.
And I won't Google Drive you, I won't do that to you, but we can just work back and forth and we can email back and forth and fill in names as needed. And if you know or have access to any contact information, phone numbers and emails, that's typically how I do this. Now, we have like 3 weeks to get this information, so no need to panic, I'm not panicked. So, I'll let you know when I panic, you'll see it. So, we have time again to think through this and say, oh, this would be the right person. Or sometimes when you reach out or I reach out, they're like, oh, I'm not the person you wanna talk to, you wanna talk to so-and-so. When that happens, I'll just check back in and make sure it's okay with you guys that I talk to so-and-so, whoever that is, so.
Some of the people that may not wanna be on the steering committee, we can maybe reference some type of
Absolutely.
interviews in.
Yep, absolutely. Because if they were important enough to be on the steering committee, they're probably important enough to interview if we can get a hold of them.
And that's just the circle we're in, as far as people we know. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many others out there.
And your steering committee may have some good ideas too, and usually what I'll often say at the end, who else should I talk to? I don't know if I'll have time, but who else should I talk to, in your opinion? And they always come up with people.
That's a great idea,
Mhm.
definitely.
This is the most labor-intensive part of the process,
Oh, yeah.
as you might imagine.
By far.
It takes me the longest, that and survey data. So, speaking of which, one last question from me. Give or take 2,600 people in town, what do you think would be a good number of survey responses? Statistically speaking, it's 10%, but I would recommend we shoot for something a lot better than that.
Well,
1,000.
yeah, our conference is 60 and 2/3 of them weren't from town.
Is that a 6 and a 0? Okay, then maybe 1,000's a bit much. 1,000.
Well,
Yeah, even our voting numbers is not that.
We're going for 1,000.
Oh, no, we were like.
But I do get to count whiteboard comments and sticky notes.
Okay.
Okay.
but see, this approach is much different than we've done in the past. Where
That's exactly what I
it usually
think.
goes off in a
Every
board
time.
meeting show, don't worry about
First thing.
that.
It's really well timed always.
He's telling
That's
us
Carol.
it's
It
time to
doesn't
go.
take him very long
Get
to
that thing
turn
under
off.
control, man.
that time.
We're doing a ground roll. Anybody whose phone howls has to put in $5.
But I think this approach is much more expandable compared to what we did years ago. I mean, we sent out some surveys, we asked people to come to park, but this approach will get a lot more interest.
Well, usually when you start asking a question about what do you want, what kind of fast food restaurants do you want to see? I mean, you get really specific, people are on it. Sometimes the bigger sort of general questions don't work so well, but going into the school, I think is gonna generate a lot. We can send the kids home with something if the school lets us, for their parents, so.
Did you see the results of the survey that they're referencing?
I have not,
Yeah.
no.
Could you mention that sort of document again? I think it would be prudent for your legal cat.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. Any questions that tonight brought up that we did not talk about or didn't get answered?
So, are we gonna have a meeting on the 12th of September next week, or is that too soon?
Well, that's a good question. I think that,
Kick off, right?
That's the
so no, it's a solid question. I think if I can get this, I don't really have much going on tomorrow, so I can get this information turned around and back out to you. If you guys wanna start asking people, you can say, we're thinking about having a meeting on Thursday night the 12th, can you make it? And sort of get a general head count. If we get 10 or 12 people there, I say, let's go move forward and start with the process and make it happen. I don't see any reason not to. Now, if what you're getting is, gosh, that's too quick or that's too soon, then, or if you feel like that's too quick or that's too soon, we can extend that to pretty much any Thursday night in September. So, calendar-wise,
That'd be the next.
I'd say the 19th would probably be a better option to get to.
The fire department's having a meeting here.
Yeah, they are.
But we're gonna have our meeting in the
Senior center.
Senior
center,
center.
right?
We could,
Oh, there's some people here, well, there's just Jeff Cockburn, but he's not on the fire board, right? He's just a firefighter.
no, the fire board meetings, when I drive by, there's not anybody here, it's just the fire board and Chief Durkee.
That should be fine. The 19th?
and the 26th is okay too,
The
for me.
seniors have a dinner and a movie.
They're on the 26th. So
Oh, on the 19th.
On the 19th.
Well, we could do it, is it, how about the room next to the senior center?
There's Zumba till 9:30.
That could
We
be
could
fun.
kick 'em
I
out.
can relocate Zumba.
So we
Just
can
tell
have,
'em.
I think we shall do Zoom before the meeting, that wake us up. Yeah, either, I think if you could extend it by a week, I think that would just
I'd
make
be
more.
my thought would be more comfortable giving it 2 weeks, because more, this is gonna be a surprise, a lot of people, school just started today, there's other stuff going on.
So does the 19th sound okay as a tentative?
Yeah.
Because it's the 19th to the 26th, there are 2 left, and both of those are still okay.
The seniors have a movie on the 19th?
Dinner and a movie.
What time?
Starts at 4.
So they should
Probably
be done
4
by
to 5 to
6.
eat. And then
should be
6,
fine.
5:30 to 7:30 for a movie. I'm supposed to 2 hours.
Yeah.
They can't watch a movie and eat at the same time.
Oh,
Let me talk to Janet, 'cause if there's not a whole lot of people signed up, we can relocate them.
I'll pencil it, I'll just save both dates right now, just in case, that's easier to save both
I think we're
dates.
pushing for the 19th.
yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Don't delay.
Don't delay. The 19th it is? I was gonna do the 12th.
If I show up to 12, I'll be here by myself.
It's just,
Well, we do have one final thing to do, so I wanna make sure everybody's got their issues or questions answered. We kind of have a general idea. You'll see more information from me. I like to put things in writing, mainly because it reminds me of what I'm supposed to be doing. But if you'd rather just have me show up at a board meeting and update you, I'm perfectly fine with that too. Last thoughts, questions? You do have to sing happy birthday, apparently. And I am a horrible singer, so I will lead us off. 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Harold. Happy birthday to you. Yay!
That's a party.
Do you need the damn it doll as a birthday present? Are you sure? You can bring him back or her back to various board meetings. See?
Put that camouflage.
All right, I'm gonna be here for a few minutes to clean it up, so if you need anything, let me know. I'm sorry I took you past our appointed hour.
Thank you.
You guys have a great night.
thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.